All right. Hey, everybody. It's Rob here for our BSP University call for this week. Not doing a Facebook Live today. Normally what I do is I do 10 or 15 minutes of training and then open it up for any questions. And thought we would do something a little bit different today. Something that I think in speaking to Sharon, I thought could be helpful to everybody because so many of you want to speak, which Sharon is already doing, very effectively to big audiences and different kinds of audiences. But when you speak, you also, of course, want to be effective in monetizing that speaking opportunity. So I thought we could have Sharon and I could kind of talk a little bit about her business and what she is doing, and then we can kind of break down some of the best ways to monetize speaking opportunities. Hopefully that makes sense. So let me, if it's okay, Sharon, I'll give you a brief introduction. You're a new client of Bestseller Publishing, but you're a published author, 2 books now, or is it 3 books? 2 books. We're going to be launching this most recent book. Sharon's a PhD with 10 years of study at Harvard for your methods on business psychology, women's leadership, etc. Sharon speaks to Fortune 500 companies and, it seems like every time we talk on the road, which I think you're about to leave again, if I'm not mistaken. We're just getting started, and we're going to be starting on some of your PR, which we talked about just a little bit ago. But you and I were having a conversation, Sharon, about the business in general and what is like the best way to monetize your speaking opportunities, because you have a good deal of opportunities. You're in front of big stages. You're paid to speak, which for a lot of people is just an absolute dream. But by the same token, you know that it can also be a ball and chain because, if you want to make a certain amount of money, you find yourself on an airplane quite a bit, speaking for $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, which is better than a sharp stick in the eye, but it's not often as much as you could be making from a big audience of your potential customers. So that's just kind of a short introduction. Anything that you want to add to that, Sharon? Otherwise, I have a bunch of questions to kind of dig into with you and kind of roll right into the business stuff. So
bring it on.
All right, sounds good. And thank you, by the way, for participating and being involved in this, because obviously this is something you and I could have done privately, but I asked if it'd be okay if we did it because it'd be helpful to so many others. So
happy to share all my mistakes so you don't have to make them.
Yeah, and you have plenty of successes. So congratulations on all that. You're, super accomplished. So talk to us a little bit. Maybe let me know first what kind of opportunities, first and foremost, we're going to be speaking about, because there are different kinds of speaking engagements you can get. There's speaking engagements where you're getting paid to speak and you're not really allowed to pitch anything from the stage. However, you can maybe collect leads by giving away some type of bonus or something to where people opt in. So talk to me in general about the kind of speaking engagement we want to hit on first. And then next, I want to hear a little bit about the audiences that you're speaking to. So let's start there.
Sure. Well, I speak to 3 kinds of audiences, I guess, when you put it that way. One is a paid audience, like I'm going and a company is bringing me in to talk to their women leaders tomorrow. So
Awesome.
There's no opportunity to sell there overtly, right? And then I also you can all speak at conferences where, like, I'm not paid to speak. It's like an association, and I'm like either a keynote or a workshop presenter, and I'm not paid. I'm like a hired kind of talent in that way, but it's not paid, so I feel a little bit more free to. I never feel free in those situations to sell, but I feel free to collect contact information and then to follow up. And I do that with Fix Your Funnel, which is just like a text campaign software thing.
Yep.
And I always find a creative way to weave that into my presentation. And I usually get a majority of the audience does a text campaign.
Yep.
And so I collect their contact information.
Okay.
And then the third kind of audience would be an audience that I control. So like my own list, or, somebody promoting me, although I'm just starting to do those kind of, joint ventures or strategic partnerships, but where, I'm getting people like, usually it would be like on a webinar. Sometimes it could be a live event. And then usually if I'm doing a webinar, it's explicitly where I give, real value add for the first, 30, 40 minutes or 50 minutes. Yep. And then I make an offer at the end, and I have reverse engineered my whole presentation to lead people to discover if they need my offer.
Okay. Awesome. Super specific. Thank you. So paid conferences to corporations like this women's leadership training that you're going to be doing, keynotes or workshop presentations where you said you're not paid for that. And so you collect leads. Maybe you can give me a little bit more details. And personal audience, I completely understand via webinar, or if you have your own live event. Explain the keynote a little bit.
I guess if it's a keynote, usually I'll be paid for it. But like a breakout, like a workshop presenter, I'm frequently do that, and it's totally worth it for me because it's in my target. If it's my target market, I will do it. Okay. And I know that I'll be able to leverage it in some way. Usually the people who are in my audience, this may not be the case for everyone on the call, but usually the people in my audience are representing a company. So I'm speaking to them with two hats, both an individual hat, like maybe they want to come do coaching with me. Yep. And or they are representing a company. So they're also listening with the eye of, what you taught us here is really helpful for me. I bet like my colleagues on my team or in my women's leadership network, for example, would be interested in this. Good.
Awesome. Okay. Change gears for 1 second. Tell me what you sell and what the price points are. And I'm not talking about the speaking fee itself. I'm talking about, your coaching, your consulting, your products.
Sure. Well, I have a suite of them. So like on a webinar, I might be selling, I'm trying to rewrite now a webinar for a program that I have. It's called Next Level Confidence. And so this should probably be a $497, like a $500 program. Yeah. All right. But I'm offering it at $297, like to my list, just to try to get some people in the program. So that's an example. That's an online program that has a little bit of coaching associated with it.
Okay. Tell me more about the higher ticket stuff.
Yeah. And then I have a $1,500 virtual coaching program for mid-career women. If I'm talking to mid-career entrepreneurs, then, it's a program for them. I call that From Chasing After to Getting Chased, how to become the go-to expert in your field. And then I also have one, it's called From Pigeonholed to Promoted, and that's for a mid-career woman who wants to get to the next level. I'm really focusing much more on the corporate market these days. Yeah. So there's that. And then there's individual coaching or bringing me into a company to do a training, which are higher tickets than that, ranging anywhere from, maybe $3,500 to $7,500, depending.
$3,500 to $7,500. And what's the deliverable there?
So 3,500 is 6 sessions of coaching. It's a coaching package.
Where you fly out, or it's virtual?
That's virtual usually.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And 7,500 is like a half day training.
Half day, where you fly out and do a half day training for them.
Yeah, and usually companies are able to talk me into doing a full day of 7,500 and paying travel and expenses.
Gotcha. Okay, good. Fantastic. And you've mentioned coaching and that kind of thing, but there's no kind of one-on-one or even higher ticket thing than this?
Well, the 3,500 is a one-on-one 6 sessions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's more like almost like hourly, like one-on-one, 1 session a week, that kind of thing.
Not exactly, but it's that idea. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And nothing longer term than that. That's it at this point.
Right.
Okay. Totally fine. Okay. All
I
right.
see. I would love to do a mastermind or something that's longer term. The corporate women are much more price sensitive than the entrepreneur women
Yes.
and men. I've shelled out, we pay to make money, but the
Yes.
corporate people have a way different mentality around that. And I've been bumping up against that.
Completely understand. All right. So let's talk about what your best opportunities are based on what you enjoy and what you want to grow. My assumption is you want to grow the higher ticket. Although the low ticket is cool, especially if you just want to stay home and do webinars, but that in one sense, that's an entirely different conversation because there's the element of traffic that you have to figure out. There's the element of offer that you have to figure out, all of that. Right now, you're actually doing these speaking engagements. So my assumption is let's focus there a little bit and see. So of the speaking engagements, of these three different kinds of engagements, and let's just say two, the paid, like for the women's leaders, or like the workshop, which is unpaid. Which of these are you doing more of? Which of these do you have upcoming? What's the outlook look like?
I do both regularly, and I have an extensive pipeline of people that I'm talking to right now, but after the end of the year, I don't have a lot booked for either of those going forward. Okay.
But what you do and what your business is basically you have a pipeline of booking these on a regular basis. So the anticipation is that you're going to be booked next year as well to continue to do these things.
From your mouth to God's ears, it seems like the phone, but it sort of trickles in, and it's not, sort of flooding in. And I gather a lot of contacts after conferences, and I always have people rushing up to me and saying, "Oh my gosh, we need to bring that in my company," or "I really, want to do this with you." And I find that after that initial rush of excitement, I haven't been effective at converting that. Like the discrepancy between that initial excitement and the enthusiasm over what I've shared and then what it turns into is very painfully discrepant.
Okay.
And so now I have, these are people that I've met at conferences over the last 3 months who have expressed interest in wanting to talk to me. And that's a lot,
Yes. Yes.
And, that's a lot of cards. And so I follow up with people with email and, and then I have, a lot more in terms of the fix your funnel, the text-ins. And, my bad is that I don't have a good email nurture campaign. I just hired Email Copy Pro to help me, with that. And so, sometimes I'll get like an email back and someone will be interested and then we'll sort of try to schedule. And then it just, and it's probably me because I'm so busy running around doing everything that I don't have a good system to follow up with people. I think that's probably the most important thing that I could do. But that, for everyone who's listening, is just really, really important. I would say that that's the number one thing. And I think we sort of chase after the sexy of getting the next thing, but it's really leveraging the context that you do have, I think is really the most important thing. So, and I have marketing materials. I don't think they've been effective. I'm being mentored right now. I'm a certified women business owner, and I've been chosen to be mentored by Capital One for the year. And they've adopted me as their mentee, and they just gave me feedback about my marketing materials. And it's okay, there's 10 things I could be doing immediately that are could be way more effective at attracting companies. So I think, for all of you, you really want to be, get some eyes on your marketing materials and make sure that they're really effective. So anyway, I know that I think that there's things where, that I'm doing that are interfering with the effectiveness of the follow through, but there's probably things that I could be doing as I'm speaking as well to make those conversions.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I want to focus on for a few minutes as we kind of talk through this. So I got a lot of notes. It seems to me, and you mentioned that in at least some of your workshops, maybe keynote presentations, you have people in certain audiences that are representative of companies that would potentially hire you or be interested in hiring you to do some type of coaching, mentoring, training, etc. It seems to me that those types of audiences are the best audiences to attract the $3,500 to $7,500 clientele. Is that accurate?
Yes.
So the first thing, do you have any type of process in place to attract more speaking opportunities like that? Whether, forget being paid, completely free, because the money's in the audience when it's the right audience that you're speaking to. Is there, other than waiting for the phone to ring, which is never a good plan, right? Is there any type of process in place to get more opportunities like that?
Well, I'm trying to put one into place. I
Okay.
mean, I'm trying to put one into place. So that's, Pete Vargas's approach where I could try to identify conferences where I'd be perfect to speak, and then, kind of send a video bomb introduction of me, and then sort of pursue that stage as he, kind of calls it. So I'm trying to put some of those things in place. I tried to put together group on different topics, and I thought that would be a terrific in front of similar kinds of audiences many times a year. And
hey, Sharon, I may suggest
like the common time that so I need to go back and make that happen.
Hey, Sharon, your signal is really weak.
Yes.
I would suggest maybe cutting the video, just because you kind of cut in and out there. And I know if that's for me, then everybody else is seeing that too. So you might want to stop sharing your video just so that the signal can be maybe a little bit stronger. So I think I got some of that. I don't know that I got all of it. It sounds like there's nothing in place now, but you're putting some things in place.
Right.
And Pete is a dear friend of mine.
Yeah, I'm just starting now.
Yeah. Pete is fantastic. The stuff he teaches is genuine and works. It isn't rocket science. It's about having a system in place. We recommend, like you talk about the video bombing. We recommend sending, a copy of your book out, via regular mail for $1 with a cover letter, something handwritten as well, a note. And then doing that 2, 3, 4, 5 times a week to your list, your top 100 list of opportunities. And then, having a virtual assistant follow up, not you follow up yourself, to, again, keep the framing and the positioning correct. So, to begin kind of the start of this, and you're a smart person. You're already moving in this direction. But to begin, you need more opportunities in front of the right audiences. Now, what's the absolute best situation? The absolute best situation is you get paid to speak in front of your ideal audience, right? But if you don't get paid to speak in front of your ideal audience, it's okay. Because if they're your ideal audience, you're going to get paid from the people within the audience. So my suggestion is always, don't worry about getting the paycheck right out of the gate. Just make sure that you're speaking in front of the best clients possible. I have a perfect example for me. This was earlier this year. I made a big mistake. I don't do many keynote speeches, just because, I kind of eat my own cooking, right? I mean, I do what I suggest other people do. And I had scheduled to do a keynote. It was only an hour from my office, so I could drive in. I was given a $5,000 check to do the keynote speech. I had set it up several months in advance. I thought it would be fun. It's to a good-sized company that does cleaning. They're like a $180 million a year company. And I was like, and they clean uniforms. They're like a linen cleaning service. And I thought, I'd love to meet these people. It's like 3-generational business, $180 million a year. But the people that I'm speaking to, not a single one of them would ever want to do a book. They're the employees of this company, and mainly the sales people. But I took this speaking engagement and booked it months in advance. Well, what I didn't realize is the ClickFunnels event, Russell Brunson's ClickFunnels event, which I've spoken at the last couple of years, was on the exact same day of this speaking engagement that I was paid $5,000 to go to. Long story short, I had already booked it. I couldn't back out of it when I finally realized. And I had made over 6 figures at the previous ClickFunnels event speaking for free. So here I was, because I was foolish enough to take this $5,000 gig, I missed the opportunity to speak at ClickFunnels just this past year because of this conflict in engagement. I still flew out to ClickFunnels, but the next day. And it ended up costing me $95,000. So the short version, or more, the short version is always speak in front of your ideal audience if you have something that you can sell that is, $2 to $10, $20, $30,000, which you absolutely do have. So step one is you need more opportunities like this, and you need a system in place, which can be as simple as, getting the top 100 of these and beginning to drip on them with a copy of your book and a cover letter, and the other things that Pete teaches are fine as well. So that's number one. You need more of these specific opportunities in front of your ideal audience. Number two is the actual engagement itself of people in the audience itself. Now, I still have you, right, Sharon? I know you're not on screen, but I want to make sure that you can hear me. Sharon, are you there? Okay. All right, good. Cool. So great. So second step is the actual engagement. I love what you're doing with the text thing. Totally great. The only problem with it is obviously there's no reason to get the text engagement unless you have an awesome follow-up system that takes them into the next step with you. And here's the thing. Anybody that's going to buy something for, $3,500 to $7,500 is going to need a telephone call most of the time to do that. Okay.
Yes.
Sometimes you can close a person like that over messenger chat. I've done that, but the reality is you're going to need a telephone call.
Yeah. Almost always it's through a call, a consultation.
Yeah. So the text itself is it's not a great indicator. It's not a great engagement system to get people to that level for a telephone call. Okay. So either A, you continue doing this text campaign, but you have a monster, amazing follow-up campaign that puts people into a telephone call with you, or B, you skip the text campaign and you do something a little bit different that takes people from the audience to a telephone call with you immediately. Okay. And that is absolutely something that you can do. So
how?
So here's one way that we suggested that works really, really well. I've had clients do this to corporate audiences. I've done it to audiences. Financial advisor clients of mine have done it. It works really well. So we call it creating some type of like success pack, if you will. And so obviously you're getting up and you're really good at what you do. You're going to give a great presentation. You're going to give amazing content, but you're also only going to speak for 45 minutes or an hour. So what we recommend is, remember, these are your ideal clients, right? These are not the corporate people that don't have any power to write a $3,500 check or desire. This is somebody that does, that you want to get on the telephone. So what we recommend is when you close out in a fashion like this. You say something to the effect of, I've given you, the best stuff I can in 45 minutes. But you and I both know that the challenges with X, Y, and Z are greater than a 45-minute, message will help you to overcome in your corporations. So here's what I've done with permission, from the conference organizer. I want to offer you and then come up with a sexy name, Success Pack, right? My women's leadership growth success pack. And here's what it is. because you only have 45 minutes with me, I wrote a best-selling book on this topic. And I want to first and foremost give you a copy of my best-selling book, a real copy of it. Here's the thing. There are 200 of you in the audience. I didn't schlep 200 copies of my book, okay? So if this is something that's interesting to you, then, you know, we'll talk about how to get it in your hands. But I want to give you a free copy of my best-selling book. The second thing I want to give you is the 5 biggest mistakes that corporate leaders make in raising up female leadership. Whatever the hot button is, right? If it's financial services, I might say something like the 5 biggest mistakes people make that cost them their entire retirement savings, right? The fear factor, right? The thing, what are these big mistakes? Now that means that you're going to have to come up with that, but you know what they are already, right? And so it's just a simple CD that you can have done at a company like Kunaki.com, Kunaki.com. They're $1.50 to do. It's no big deal. They'll even ship and everything for you for like $1.50. So you tell them the second part of the success pack is that. And the third part is the most valuable thing that I can offer you. And I can only do it first come, first serve. And that is to give you 30 minutes of my personal time in a whatever, a Melnick leadership consulting call, right? And I want to do that because I want to help you to, grow or advance or do whatever the magic thing is that you're speaking about. So here's how this is going to work. For those of you that are interested in the success pack, the book, the CD, and the strategy call, we're going to pass out some flyers right now. And I just need you to, I'm going to mail the book to you. I'm going to mail the CD to you. And then my assistant's going to follow up to schedule your call. I just need you to fill out this sheet. Just give me your name, your address for mailing, your telephone number. And there's 2 or 3 questions on this sheet that I would like for you to answer. That way I can be a little bit more prepared for the call when we have it. And the 2 or 3 questions that you're going to ask on the sheet, Sharon, are going to be qualifying questions, right? Because you don't want to just speak to anybody that fills out the form. You want to speak to the people that are the most qualified and the best candidates right out of the gate. Now, here's the thing. I have had clients in a corporate environment close 80% of the room in a process like this. Now, that's both good and bad because 80% of the room is a really cool number, but the reality is there may only be 10 or 15 or 20 of those people that you really want to have telephone calls with. So when you get the qualifying questions answered, if this were, again, a financial advisor thing, one of the questions might be, what do you have in investable assets right now? 0 to 50,000, 50,000 to 500,000, over 500,000. I mean, a really specific qualifying question like that. You're going to ask those things. So in one sense, you're not going to have, 150 texts that you're not going to do anything with. You might have 10 or 15, you might have 50 out of 200 where people have filled that out completely and want a call with you. But what you're going to do is you're going to call the people that are the most qualified and the hottest. Now they're expecting a call from you, right? They're going to get your framing, your pre-framed material, right? Your best-selling book, your CD. Yes, there's a cost involved. $3.50 to print the book, $1.50 to mail the CD. It's going to cost you a little money, but these leads are like gold because with the right closing process, you're going to be able to close these people into and probably even a higher ticket package than you're offering right now. Does that make sense? So what we're doing is we're going away from the low quality, higher volume leads that you're getting right now because you're not monetizing them anyway. And we're moving towards a lower number, but a much higher quality lead. And that's the person you want to get on the telephone with. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Thoughts there?
Well, I've done stuff like that. I mean,
okay.
That's the right idea, and that's the right advice,
It
and
works.
I should do that effectively.
Yep.
But I have done stuff like that, and I have found that it hasn't converted.
Okay.
Like I keynoted a women's leadership conference a few months ago, and I got and I offered a follow-up consultation kind of thing, and I found that, I mean, I made like practically, I got like one or two people doing like $1,500 packages. I mean, it was painful. I mean, I spent a lot of time on, and then I spent like a whole week on the phone, with people. But, and what's really interesting about it is that I don't know what I'm trying to figure out what the psychology is here around that, is that, there was also another time this year where I said, does anyone on my list have this experience? Could I just talk with you and sort of not pick your brain, but could I hear about your experience because I'm writing something on this? And I'd never done that before. Usually I call for consultations, as I talk about a painful situation. Here's how I helped a client. Is anyone in this situation? If so, let's have a consultation. And so I did this thing, and I just sort of was like, kind of like, what the hell? And I got like 20 people or something, like a pretty good number, offering to do these like free things where they were going to tell me about, like, it was for me. It wasn't even for them. And I closed like some enormous percentage of them, and I think it was like, they got like, they had their guard down or something like that, like they weren't thinking that I was going to come in selling to, and those women from the women's leadership thing, I mean, usually when I get on the phone with someone, I have a very, very, very high closing rate. But it was like those women, they wanted free advice. It was like, so that maybe if I had a qualifying, question on that, maybe that would do the thing. But
let me address that, what you just said.
I've had a rush to the front of the room of women who wanted to make consultations with me for this $1,500 program, and then very little enrollment.
Yeah. Well, there's only one of two reasons why they're not enrolling. Either they're the wrong people on the telephone, and when I say wrong people, I mean they don't have the money.
Not qualified, yeah.
And the only other reason is because it's the wrong conversation you're having with them, meaning that you're expecting them to lay down and buy, but there may be a couple of extra steps in this as a sales process where you're not creating pain, but you're discovering pain, like in a doctor's office, and then uncovering the challenges and issues. And rather than coaching, I mean, we have a whole process that we go through to do this. I mean, if you have the right person on the telephone and you are positioned correctly in front of them, which you are when you speak and when you're a best-selling author, then the conversation itself is the only other variable. And that, people will want to buy, they do, but they do have their guard up. And they are concerned, especially after just one presentation that might have happened a week or 2 weeks ago, right? They may not even remember in some cases what this is even about, this scheduled call that they have. So you need a presentation that takes a less qualified person from the standpoint of you have only had one engagement with them, right? I don't mean less qualified like they're not the right people or the right buyers. I mean, you don't have a whole history of engagement with them, and how to take that person in one telephone call from nothing to a buyer. You can totally do that if it's the right person. You absolutely can. You just need a presentation that closes closes that gap. And honestly, as you do more and more of this, you're not going to want to do all these conversations because it's a lot of conversations to have. So what you'll want to do is you want to pick the absolute most qualified people. You'll want to make sure they're warmed up via getting your book, getting your CD, getting your, we call it indoctrination pieces, right? That pre-frame who you are and how you can help. And then those that you do get on the telephone, you take them through your process and you're going to close them. You don't want to get on the telephone with just anybody, if that makes sense. So
how would I pre-qualify like women leaders in an audience like this?
The form.
Because it's easy if it's like how much in investable assets, I get that. But how would I say that without sort of saying, like how much are you willing to spend on coaching?
Well, I mean, let's think of it from the standpoint of what their position is in a corporation, right? If they're a mid-level manager, then they have to invest their own money in themselves, right? And they're probably not going to do that, is what you told me before. So if you're speaking to the right audience, then you're speaking to people that have a budget, a corporate budget, probably, right? And that could be a simple question that you ask. is maybe something along the lines, and you have to figure out, because these questions are really important. You don't want it to be obvious that you're asking a question about monetary, a monetary engagement, but you do want to know, is this something that is a high priority item in their corporation? Is this something that is causing pain in some way? Meaning, like in the departments where this is an issue, has there been a lack of growth? Has there been, a big turnover? Like whatever the pain points are that you know of, you want to kind of address those pain points. And then in some way, you want to find out if there's a budget to fix this kind of thing, right? Or how much have they invested in the past to fix this problem, and what is it costing them? So you can, I wouldn't just ask that plainly like I just did, but maybe, or at the very least, find a way to get to that question. So you can ask that. I mean, right? They're investing their assets in improving the performance of their corporation. So, find the pain, find if they've invested in the past, and or if this is something that they're willing to invest in to see growth, see change. Make sense? So you want more conversations that are qualified and less just random people hitting your list, which means speaking more in front of the right audience, and then getting on the telephone with the right people. Do you have any presentations coming up that this would be a fit for?
I've just had a whole spate of them, so it's now starting to die down. Okay. But I've had many of them over the last several weeks. Yeah. I have a few paid engagements over the next few weeks.
Okay. So maybe we can shift gears. I mean, this will work for you. It will get you.
I will definitely
get you opportunities. And I'm telling you, and if you want to send in, like if you want to come up with your questionnaire, 2 or 3 questions is all you need. Don't do any more than that. And it should be really simple. Like maybe there's multiple choice, or maybe it's just one little line where they write an answer. If you want to send it to me and let me take a look at it, I'm happy to do that. So no problem there. Let's maybe shift gears for just a second. Let's talk about the assets that you currently have, because you've done a lot of these speaking engagements. You have these people on your list right now, but you haven't done much to nurture them. So how big is the list, and how many people, even in the last month or two, have joined it?
I mean, my list of corporate people and business owners is probably about 8,000 people.
Okay.
I probably have, I don't know, maybe like 1,000 people or so who like regularly open my emails.
Okay, great.
And I try to nurture with good content. Every once in a while, I'll send an affiliate promo if I really believe in the person. And so I try to nurture with good content, maybe 3 times a month. I'm not as regular as I'd like to be, but I try to be somewhat regular. And every once in a while, I make offers, or I offer free consultations.
Okay. And, so tell me about that. Tell me about the free consultation offer. How does that work? What do you say?
So usually I'll send an email and I'll like give a story of like, and I'll always start off with some sort of fun or engaging something or whatever. And then, I worked with Rob. Rob came in and he had this problem where, he had a boss who he never felt heard with or whatever. And, do you feel that way? If so, here are 3, things to think about when asking your manager about something. And then underneath it, I'll put, do you face this? If so, I'm offering a limited number of, get a yes from your boss today, consultations, whatever. Yeah. I mean, I'm just like making, and then, and it hasn't worked, it works a little bit. It works a little bit, but doesn't work a lot of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the best really that works for me is people are in my audiences. They totally resonate. They think I'm the bomb, and then they follow up with me. Like that works. Me trying to reach out to people, some, but not a lot.
So, so here's a strategy that what you need is you need a conversation with these people.
Yes.
And a great strategy. Have you ever heard of a 9-word email?
Yes.
Dean Jackson came up with
Yes.
the idea a few years ago. It's it's a fantastic engagement.
I've gotten no response from that. I've tried that.
Then you're asking the wrong question.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So
Good.
if I send an email out today, I don't even do it because the response is too overwhelming for us. But if I send an email out to my list, it would say something like, and the subject line is always their name. So, first name is the subject line. And the email, mine would say something like, are you still interested in having a best-selling book, Rob? That's it. And if I did that today, I would probably get, my list is a little over 40,000. I would get 10,000 plus responses. Some no, but many, many thousands of yeses. And I'm with 8,000, you should be able to get, 1,500 conversations going.
Well, not 8,000 are opening. I mean, let's say 1,000 are opening.
Okay. All right. So 1,000 opens. Well, you're going to get more opens with the subject line as just their first name. So that's first. You'll get a higher open rate with that because people will open that out of curiosity. So you then have to have something that's engaging to begin a conversation with them. What might that be? I mean, you know who is on this list. You know why they're on this list. What do they want? With me, it's simple. Do you still want a best-selling book, right? So with Sharon, it's do you still want what?
Do you still want to be heard and get promoted?
Okay, so if it's do you still want to be promoted? Forget the heard, which I know that's important, but I would think the monetary. Maybe I'm thinking like a man, so I don't know. You know better than me what's going to be a great hook, but based on that, it's an audience not of the people that can pay for the $3,500 or $7,500 thing, right? Is this an audience primarily of the people that are looking for the lower ticket thing?
Mixed. Some people are paying $3,500. Some people are chinsing me down on $300 products. So it's totally across the board. But there's plenty of people who could pay somewhere in between.
Okay. Is it segmented at all based on?
A little bit, business owner and corporate.
Okay. All right. Well, if it's segmented, it's a different message to each of them.
Which I do. I send differently to them, except if I'm sending something about your psychology, that's human.
Okay, good. But obviously when it comes to a 9-word email, you're not going to ask a business owner.
I'll try that again, though. That's good. I'm going to try it again.
Yeah. And again, if you want some feedback on it, send it to me. But I'm telling you, it works like gangbusters.
And then what do? You send them to a call?
No, you start a conversation with them like they're a real person. You can't just send them to a call. You have to begin engaging with them. So thank you for asking that. We're spending so much time on the first step, and you do need to ask them the right thing. Do you still want whatever the thing is that that they got on your list because they want, right? They want to be a best-selling author. That's why they're on my list. Do you still want that? And so they're going to tell me, or they're going to say, well, it already happened. They're going to say, well, Rob, I'm on your list already. I'm one of your clients or something, right? So for you, it's do you still want whatever that magic thing is that put them on your list? If it's segmented, it's something different for each of the segments of your list. If they say yes, then the next step is to begin communicating with them like a real person. So if someone said yes to that question, you might respond back, awesome. So, tell me a little bit about where things are for you right now. Very short, like one sentence, something that takes them to the next step in the process. You're going to have a percentage of people that never reply to that. You're going to have a percentage of people that write, what Dean calls the love letter, which is 3 paragraphs of information. It's like all they needed was that one little step, and they just want to gush all of their stuff. The point being is the conversations continue like little just back and forth. One of my clients calls it like hot potato, right? Like they say yes, and then you say, well, tell me a little bit about it. You throw the hot potato right back to them, and then they throw it back, and you continue until you get the love letter. And the love letter is, let me just tell you everything that's going on and how much help that I need. And then that, and only then, do you take them to a call with you. Because at that point, you've now re-engaged with them so much that they're ready for the next step, which would be a phone call. Does that make sense? Now, with 1,000 opens, I mean, you should be able to generate 20, 30 telephone calls, fairly easy. And these are people that are already kind of re-warmed up in your process. I would certainly think, because of all the speaking that you've done, you've put them on the list. They just need to be re-engaged, but you don't want to just take them to a call cold. You want to, warm up the process a little bit. And the 9-word email is a great way for you to do it.
I'm going to try it.
Yeah. Write a couple of different examples and then send it to me. And if you know anybody that, and of course you know people, but if you have a friend in this space, you might even want to get, some feedback from them. Do you think this is the best question to ask, or do you think this is the best question? Keep it really short. It's not, think in terms of 9 words. It's their first name in the subject line, 9 words, Sharon. That's it. Not all the corporate logo stuff, not just real personal, like it looks like it's coming directly from you. In fact, press enter a bunch of times to lower your autoresponder stuff, your opt-out for your autoresponder. Lower that down so it's not above the fold. Keep it below the fold. And then, you send it, and it looks like a very organic, personal email. That's the whole point of it. And that will re-engage these people that at one time said, Sharon's awesome, and I want to be on her list, and I want to learn more about the stuff that you do. And then they've gotten busy with their lives and forgotten all about it. So the whole goal from my perspective of this, and you have multiple goals because you have multiple products. But the first goal for me is always, how can we get people on the telephone with you that are qualified so you can sell your most expensive thing to them? Because that's the fastest place for you to get an ROI in a speaking engagement or money that you're spending on ads or anything. So that's always what I focus on. Now, there's a lot of other pieces. We can talk about webinars, and I have trainings on that you have access to, and we're pretty good on closing on webinars, and the stack and all that stuff. If you know how to do all of that, that's really, really important. And so those elements are great, but I would focus here first, because you have these speaking engagements. You're in front of them. They love you. You're on a stage above them, so your positioning is great. You're an author. You got the pieces. Now you just have to get the qualified people on the telephone and have a great conversation that's going to close them. By the way, that's the other thing I forgot to mention, is there's like a 1 hour and a half training that I did on how our conversations go, to take people from very, very cold to oftentimes making very, very big buying decisions on one telephone call. And so there is a process where it's not salesy and it's not pushing it down someone's throat, but there is a process that you take people through. So I would suggest you take a look at that as well. And I'll put like a link in the Facebook group on where everybody can find that. So anyway, we've been going a long time. I mean, helpful. Does anybody else? I know there's 20 plus people on. Do you guys have any questions about this and what we've shared? We've I got a whole page of notes here, but we've talked about what to go after first. We've talked about kind of multiple steps. Step 1, getting more of the right opportunities. Step 2, making an offer that distinguishes the best candidates from all the others. Step 3, having a process that closes those best candidates, which is typically a telephone process. And then, kind of the next phase is, what do you do with all the leads that you have right now? All those leads being, the text message opt-ins and that kind of thing. You may even want to try, if you have a text service that does this, you may even want to try the 9-word email to a segment just via text and see how that works. That could be amazing, because the open rate's going to be 100% when it comes to a text message.
I'm going to try that.
So try it with a small segment, because that may drive you nuts. I mean, you may try it with 100 or 200 first and see what happens with that. That could be really cool. So those are the 2 phases that I'd focus on. Phase 1 with the speaking, and then phase 2 at the same time with the current list. So any questions? Plenty to do, right? So Sharon, thank you. Thanks so much. I don't see any questions by anybody else. So I guess we'll go ahead and end it. I did record all this, so I'll get you, of course, a copy of the recording, Sharon. I'll also get you the links to some of the stuff that we talked about. It'll be in the private Facebook page, which I think you're on that. If not, we'll make sure to add you in because I know you're a pretty new client. So anyway, thanks so much. Great to have you a part of the family too.
Thank you so much, Rob. I appreciate your dedication and your good ideas.
Yeah, my pleasure. I want to hear how they go, and good luck with your next speaking engagement. I know you leave today, right?
In an hour.
All right. Have a safe trip.
Thank you again.
Bye, everybody. See you next week.